Did you hear about the representatives who pressured cable providers to stop hosting news outlets they don't like? No, this isn't the straight line to a joke. It's real life. And if we aren't careful, it is free speech in America that will become the joke. So we'll discuss that next on the Constitution Study.
One thing you have to know wherever you make your stand came from a long through line of everyday Americans.
Hello there, everyday Americans. Paul Engel here with the Constitution Study, where we read and study the Constitution. We teach the rising generation to be free. I'm glad you could join us. I'm hoping you're taking these videos, you're taking these articles, and you're sharing them. That's the biggest thing we can do, is share this information with others. Because a lot of the information I bring to you, a lot of the facts, a lot of the quotes are not being heard. People aren't exposed to them. They don't know that they're there. They're not being told that they're there. And sure enough, there are people trying to shut up others who might be discussing things like this. So, hey, share these while you can. I have put things in place in case, well, let's say some members of the House of Representatives don't like what I'm saying and try to get me banned, but that's another story. So take this information, share it. Hey, if you can support the work that we're doing on the website, if you can donate to the cause, I would appreciate it. It certainly helps keep this up and running. If you want to head over to Constitution Scholars and find out more, maybe become a scholar yourself, I'd appreciate that as well. I'll talk a little bit more about that in the end of the video. But for now, let's talk about congressional speech police. I saw reports about two members of the House of Representatives, Anna Eshoo and Jerry McInerney, who sent letters to a dozen major cable and satellite providers pressuring them to stop hosting news outlets these representatives don't like. The question Americans need to answer, though, is, what do we do about it? I put links to the letters in the article, but I'm going to quote from the letter to AT&T. Quote, right-wing media outlets like Newsmax, One America News Network, and Fox News all aired misinformation about the November 2020 elections. For example, both Newsmax and OANN ran incendiary reports of false information following the elections and continue to support an angry and dangerous subculture that will continue to operate semi-openly. As a violent mob was breaching the doors of the Capitol, Newsmax's coverage called the scene a sort of romantic idea. Fox News, meanwhile, has spent years spewing misinformation about American politics. Now, are these letters proposing a law? No. Do they threaten to make a law? Not exactly. So what does the First Amendment have to do with this incident? See, members of Congress are complaining about how certain news outlets covered recent stories, questioning the validity of the press to report items in a way they see fit. They are claiming the right to oversee, if not regulate, what products these cable and satellite providers can carry. While no threat is openly made, I have to wonder why these representatives write to these providers if they did not want them to do what Congress cannot legally do. That is, restrict the freedom of speech and press of those outlets that these congressmen do not like. Quote, Congress shall make no law abridging the freedom of speech or of the press. Congress cannot legally make a law abridging the freedom of the press. But does that mean that members of Congress, in their official capacity, can ask private companies to do so? Quote, yet to our knowledge, the cable, satellite, and over-the-top companies that disseminate these media outlets to American viewers have done nothing in response to the misinformation aired by these outlets. AT&T currently carries Fox News, Newsmax, and OANN on UVerse, DirecTV, and AT&T TV. As a company that serves 17 million Americans, AT&T plays a major role in the spread of dangerous misinformation that enabled the insurrection of January 6th and hinders our public health response to the current pandemic. These members of Congress are attempting to intimidate these providers into giving up their liberty to provide the programming they desire. They are also threatening to deprive these news outlets of the property they have in their contracts with these cable and satellite providers. That is a clear violation of the First Amendment. And from the Fifth Amendment, quote, no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. Now, if members of Congress cannot legally write a law to stop these cable and satellite providers from carrying the content they wish, and if they can't legally deprive these news outlets of their contracts with these providers, what do these representatives hope to gain by this letter? Quote, it is for these reasons we ask that you provide us with responses to the following questions about AT&T's policy toward content carried on UVerse, DirecTV, and AT&T by March 8, 2021. These congressmen are asking for information they have no right to. Since the First Amendment prohibits Congress from making a law abridging the freedom of the press, there is no legitimate congressional business to be done here. Therefore, they have no legitimate congressional need for this information, which makes this an unreasonable search according to the Fourth Amendment. Quote, "The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized." What we have here is a government entity searching for information without a warrant. They have provided no legitimate probable cause, since the expert evidence they provide does not show the commission of a crime. They have shown no evidence of libel or defamation, except possibly by these members of Congress themselves. In short, these representatives are violating the Fourth Amendment's protection against unreasonable searches. Furthermore, they are doing so only to certain news outlets, thereby violating the principle of equal protection under the law. So what should be done about what is apparently an attempt to intimidate cable and satellite providers into dropping customers these members of Congress do not like? Well, first, the cable and satellite providers should refuse to comply with the request. Congress has no legitimate reason to have such information, and the providers should stand their ground and refuse to provide it. In fact, while the threat of interfering with their ability to do business is implied rather than overt, I would like to see these companies ask the FBI to investigate these members of Congress for violating 18 U.S.C. 1951. What is that? Quote, "Whoever in any way or degree obstructs, delays, or affects commerce or the movement of any article or commodity in commerce by robbery or extortion, or attempts to conspire to do so, or commits or threatens physical violence to any person or property in furtherance of a plan or purpose to do anything in violation of this section, shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 20 years, or both." Second, every member of the House of Representatives who cares at all about liberty and their oath to support the Constitution should demand an ethics investigation leading to at least censure and removal from committee assignments, if not expulsion from Congress. If the members of Congress will not hold their counterparts accountable for disorderly conduct and intimidation, then they all deserve to lose their jobs. Period. End of story. Article 1, Section 5, Clause 2 of the Constitution reads, quote, "Every House may determine the rules of its proceedings, punish its members for disorderly behavior, and, with the concurrence of 2/3, expel a member." Lastly, the only way the other members of Congress will even consider filing ethics complaints against these members is if they hear from their constituents firmly and repeatedly. Now, I've already contacted my representative via email. I plan to follow up with phone calls and letters if I do not receive a satisfactory answer. What are you going to do? As for those citizens of Northern California represented by these two, I ask you, are you happy with what they've done? These representatives are attempting to stifle free speech and freedom of press, if not freedom of thought, and they are doing so in your name and by your authority. You might as well sign the letters yourself. So let me ask you, if two members of Congress started questioning the reporting of news outlets you like, what would you do? It's time the American people start treating their elected representatives like the servants they are supposed to be. If you would fire a maid or a groundskeeper for using their position in your household to intimidate others, then you should certainly do so for your elected representatives. And if we will not hold our members of Congress accountable for their actions, well then James A. Garfield said, "Their ignorance, reckless, and corruption are our fault." Quote, "Now more than ever before, the people are responsible for the character of their Congress. If that body be ignorant, reckless, and corrupt, it is because the people tolerate ignorance, recklessness, and corruption. If it be intelligent, brave, and pure, it is because the people demand these high qualities to represent them in the national legislature." So let me ask you, would you have signed that letter? If you live in one of these two districts, you might as well have, because those two representatives are working by your name. And if the rest of the House of Representatives will not instigate even an investigation into an ethics violation, well then the American people are just as complicit. Maybe not individually, but certainly collectively, to allow this level of interference and intimidation because the people don't like what is being said is so anathema to liberty, to freedom. It should have every American citizen up in arms. But there's nary a peep. Is it because this information isn't being spread? Well, here's your opportunity, folks. Spread the word. Show your friends, show your neighbors, show those on social media just how tyrannical and corrupt these two representatives are. They want speech police coming out of Washington, D.C. They want to use their power, probably over the licensing of these cable and satellite providers, to intimidate them to shut people up. Why? Because they don't like what they said. I would love to see these cable providers sue these representatives for slander. I don't care if a court comes up with an answer or not. I don't care if a court finds them guilty. I don't care if a court looks at this and says, well, they're Congress. They can do whatever they want. This was not done on the floor. This was not done as part of their business. So they have no immunity under the Constitution. They should be sued. Congress should, investigate. And based on the evidence, you can find, just by click the links in the article, they have committed a tremendous injustice. They have committed intimidation, racketeering, extortion. Now, maybe you can't get a conviction on that because it's implied, it's not specific. But if someone were to walk up to you and say, gee, that's a really nice car, be a shame if something happened to it. If someone were to walk up to you and say, that's a really nice house, gee, why do you let those people come visit? If those people had the power to do damage to you and your business, that sounds like a threat. What happened on January 6th in the Capitol was wrong. What these two representatives are doing is not just wrong. It's criminal. It's a violation of those most basic tenets, and I don't understand why most Americans don't seem to care. Now, if you care, please comment on this video. Head to the website, find the article, comment on there as well. Share this. If you live in one of these Northern California districts, explain to me why it's okay for your representatives to shut up people they don't like. I don't remember people threatening to shut up CNN or MSNBC or the New York Times when they lied repeatedly to the American people, and there's proof of those lies. I don't see anybody calling to have them shut down or questioning where they're distributed. This is dangerous things, folks. This is a dangerous time. These are dangerous people doing dangerous things. And we're not the only ones that will suffer. It is our children and our children's children that will suffer if we don't deal with this. I don't care if you think it'll actually work. If you'll only do something when you're guaranteed to win, you will never win. We need to stand up. We need to see each other stand up. You need to be on the phone or at least send a letter or an email to your representatives. Send them the link to this article, to this video. Show them. Shame them into doing the right thing. Because I think that's the only way they're going to do anything. And if I lived in these districts in Northern California, I'd be ashamed. I'd be ashamed to show my face, to live in such a despotic, tyrannical district that the people want to shut up anybody they don't agree with. What has happened to us? What happened to, I may vehemently disagree with what you say, but I will defend to the death your right to say it. Where did that go? Because right now, between what's going on in California and in Washington and in big tech, it seems like if I don't like what you say, I'm going to shut you up. I'm going to destroy your life. I'm going to destroy your business. I'm going to destroy your career because I don't like what you're saying. That's Soviet Russia, people. That's Mao's China. That's Iran. Do you really want to live in a land where the government can tell you what you can and cannot say? This is about time we did something about it. So again, share this. Head to the website, constitutionstudy.com. Please sign up for the newsletter. Click the link to get your free book. If you can donate to the cause, if you can help me put out these videos, if you can help me share these videos, help me financially get the word out, I would appreciate it greatly. And those of you who do support me, those of you who make regular donations, I appreciate it. Every time I see that notice come in, I get a little smile on my face. I appreciate whatever you can do. And again, head over to theconstitutionscholars.com. That site's designed to help people explore the Constitution, to learn, to not simply read it, not simply be told what's going on, but to learn to become a Constitution scholar for yourself. You can start absolutely free. There's no time limit. If all you want to do is go there and participate, that's fine. But if you want to learn how to become a scholar, how to really study and understand the Constitution, well, consider signing up for one of the paid memberships. Start at the apprentice level. Give it a try. That work, that sharing of information is part of what makes the Constitution study unique, is part of what keeps the Constitution study going, and is part of what made America the land of the free and the home of the brave. Let's do something about it before we become the land of the servant, the land of the ruled, the land of the intimidated, and the home of the coward. And hopefully, you'll come back here next time. Not because it's pleasant news, but because it's accurate news. And it's because it's good information. And I'll see you here at the Constitution Study.